Welcome to the channel, guys. This is Reliable Rudy. Before we get any stock market analysis or any live trading, you guys need to know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everything in this video, in this live stream, is just me sharing my opinion, giving you guys entertainment. And yeah, let's see what we got in store for you guys today. I haven't really taken any trades. I was watching GFAI a little bit, but that red engulfing candle kind of scared me, and I just wanted to see it just trade sideways a little bit. If it showed me a green candle, and what I did, I just went to a 5-minute chart. So here's that 15-minute candle. Had that candle, or this next candle open, here's that next 15-minute candle. Had it showed me that it could get through 6, I might have tried it. But that was kind of what I was looking at with GFAI, and just it does have a trend line that could hold right here, but I would want to see it kind of catch a bid, so we're going to keep that one on watch. We're still sitting on TEL. We had an alert put in. This one was triggered early on the very first candle, but still holding. So we got an alert in on or TEL, still holding that entry. We had a fill on AGen at 190. We said yesterday that we were looking for a test up to this flat bottom right here, and we took a fill at 190, and now it's just kind of going into the range. So we're in at 180s. So we're gonna give it, see if this is a trend line that can hold, and see if we can get this turn up. If we go over to the daily chart and just clear everything, this is kind of why I was on map. I was kind of holding these levels over at these previous highs, and now we're just looking for that to hold, and eventually we're looking for this to build some sort of a smiley face that can eventually take out the wick highs up at 216. So that is basically looking for some sort of early entry before that breakout price, which this breakout price meets kind of in at the previous lows over here. But you can see how this is kind of meeting in over at this wick top right here. So then everything else, markets are down, and looking at the SQ, which is the short NASDAQ, I would say you probably have some sort of channel building. So it's tough to kind of look for trades in this type of, how do I put it? In this type of market, because you're not really sure. If I just go look at the NASDAQ, let's just go look at the NASDAQ. I'll tell you guys what I'm seeing. Let's just clear everything. Yes, you guys know I like to trade off of strength, and the NASDAQ clearly has strength. Really nice move in the NASDAQ, and we're actually trading kind of near this previous top right here. Gaps up, fills the gap, and is able to, try for new highs. It does set new highs, but now we're trading back in at those tops, so this could easily hold as support. So, second half of the day, I could see some trades kind of play in. So we're gonna try and sit back and take advantage of that. But here's more so why I say it's a little bit more difficult, because I'm not a fan of trying to punch long term, which is why I think it's more of a, okay, if you got the entry, trim the levels and hold a piece for the dream. If it wants to keep going, hold it as long as you can. Uh, but just looking at, I mean, if we're talking from over here, we have a wave pattern. That's a 5-wave structure. You guys see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, testing the bottom of wave 1. A little bit over top of it, but in a sense, I look at it as a wave 4 and a wave 5, higher low, higher low. You take out the neckline, which is also sort of a downtrend break. So just looking at this move in the NASDAQ, here's your initial move. So this is a 5-wave structure to the downside, and now we retest the neckline. You break over top of the highs. You retest the top of your wave 1, and now we got this exhaustive wave 5 that came in. And looking at it as if this is some sort of retracement, we have our last retracement that also kind of meets in near these lows. If I just mark these lows right there, that is our last retracement. And this is kind of where we're at. So it's a little more scary taking this long-term type of trade up here, a lot of FOMO into the market. If you want that FOMO and you're looking for a break of that last extension, maybe you can get a test up to these highs. Maybe you can get a break of a new all-time high. So that's why I think the Nasdaq short, if this is a five-wave structure and we see some sort of A, is this an A wave right here? Do you see some sort of short-term B that double tops? And then do you see like a ABC retracement come in where maybe we test down to these highs? Maybe this is just a simple A wave, you catch a bid, and you have some sort of downtrend like this, and then we actually get some sort of flush that tries to get down to even this kind of flat top break, which here's my wave 4, and then here's my exhaustive wave 5 that comes in. Do we have to retest the top of wave 4 here? And, in the short term, trying to predict what the market is going to do is a very difficult thing. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, even looking back over to this flat top, the whole news catalyst was, hey, we got a debt ceiling, we could possibly default, which I thought was a pretty big joke. I mean, just personal opinion, since 1960, debt ceiling was raised, I believe, 79 times. But no, the 80th time they are going to let the United States default. I thought it was just a bunch of baloney. And looking at strength, here's your positive break back in January, middle of January. Your strength has never gone negative on you, so there's never really been a reason to sell. If you took a positive break and you're just holding it based off of strength, well, first off, your positive break comes in right around this area. You got the positive break, so anywhere in this area, this price never gets you out of the money. So anybody who really punched along on this positive break, you were never really out of the money. And if you just held it saying, hey, I'm in the money, let's just hold it, you got a very nice move to the upside, which I would say there's probably even some sort of uptrend that you could pull into. So does an A wave need to come in here? We double top, crack of the trend line, and then you get some sort of retracement back to this top. It's possible. So I do think that looking at the NASDAQ short just for today, I do think that is early signs of some sort of channel. Whether you just mark those highs right there, you mark the lows, and then you mark these tops. I think it could be early signs of a channel. So if you're looking at something where, oh, I just want to get in something today and see if I can make a quick buck. Okay, well, let's say you have your previous tops as support. You have a nice green candle on increased volume. We have 12 minutes left on this candle. You're wicking into some levels, and you can see there is some buying pressure. Does it need to trade sideways? And can you get a move up to the top end of the channel? So if you were in off of that wick, top end of the channel, 3.5%, I mean, that's not a terrible trade. So that is a little bit of what I'm looking for. Now I will get more into some analysis for today, and we will see what we can find. Just let me post a couple things. Okay, so I was looking at UCAR. UCAR was really ripping, and when I seen it originally, it started getting up in these top 10 gainers up here. From the open price, I was around 6%, so it was getting up in this top range. I seen this red candle come in, and it was showing some red engulfing down into some levels. I never pulled the trigger on it because I thought that it was getting ready to dump when I seen that large increase in volume, and it was a red engulfing candle to the downside. I started setting up my stream, and by the time I got my stream set up, this thing was up over 7. I was like, oh boy. So UCAR, a pretty notable move right there. I can go look back at GFAI, and you can see, kind of a trend line hold right here. So this could be one that we're watching if we're looking at some risk to reward. But looking over at TEL is still kind of holding the level, and I'll show you why I kind of like TEL. Is this fresh positive break on nice volume, bigger volume than usual right here, and this volume comes in the middle of this green candle. So nice green candle closes, and you have buyers off the previous highs and also in the middle of that green candle. So yesterday we pretty much bought this flat top that it had set up. I'll go to a 15-minute chart and show you guys right off 134. So slightly in the money, nothing really too notable. Here's your opening candle, and you can see this flat top resisting, resistance 3 times, and then you have 8 candles of resistance, and then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, kind of a fifth candle of support that's trying to show now. So, tell is one of the positions that we're still holding in AGEN. Kind of looks like it's going to try and give up the ghost a little bit, but you do have a lot of attempts to hold support at this 185. Still slight strength, and you kind of had this flat top that's wicked into 184. So yesterday, early in the day, kind of the same story with the Nasdaq, the SPY, and the Dow as they were down uh, on the more red side early in the day, and I was just looking for something that was showing me, hey, a move to the upside. So here's the open of the candle. You can see it's wicked down, kind of a washout bottom. Anyone who had a stop loss under this maybe got wicked out and somebody bought it back up. So anybody that was short could have been also trying to short right there, and then once the price goes back against them, they got to cover their position quick. Here's your kind of bull flag, 3 candles, hold the level, and then take out the high. Now we're wicking into those highs that it put from the open yesterday. So AGEN, we're still kind of holding that position. And CXAI was notable, but this is probably right in line with that GFAI as well, probably an AI related play, but it does have a trend line, so a couple things that we can watch there. And UCAR is on an absolute tear right now. Let's look at the daily chart for UCAR. Yeah, that's a impressive move. I don't know if I'm gonna tangle myself up with that. But green on the day and notable is oil. You guys know that I've talked about oil many times on the stream. And we've been talking about, yesterday we were talking how it was wicking into these previous highs and we are getting closer to this positive break. Now we're putting in a nice green candle. So let's go around PBR, one of the more stronger oil names. And, I normally don't really talk about cost average, but this is one of my more notable oil plays and it is strong. I don't know if I can condone pushing it higher here, but we were taking positive breaks. We were taking positive breaks, just building this position down here. We've gotten 2 dividends on the name and getting a nice breakout. Will I take some profits today? Looking at the chart, I'd say it has a nice flat top up at 16, and you also have some resistance probably built in there. So I'm going to look at this as some sort of trim window. And one of the main reasons is we've already taken some profits on the name. And why we took some profits was this 702. It was able to get through the 702, and now we're actually pushing through the 786. So looking for some further movement on that. But going over some more oil plays, this is natural gas, so it's probably related. Before we had a channel, we get the gap up, and then it's holding on top of this channel at a 3 level. So that is a natural gas ETF. Here's another oil name, a messy chart. Let's just clear that. Holding support very nicely. I would say if it got over top of like a 47, could be reasonable breakout. And you are kind of breaking over some sort of short-term neckline. If we go to a 15-minute chart, you can see this is the support that it's trying to hold. And now breaking over, if you'd just put an alert off of like 43.50, 50 cents in the money. So that's notable. OVV, another oil name. So a lot of the strength that I'm seeing is coming out of oil names, I would say. And this candle on the Nasdaq is now turned green, or the Nasdaq short is now turned green. Another oil name up 1%. Nice U-shaped build right there. What other oil names can we find? Res, I'm pretty sure this is a RPC oil name. Neckline break. Devon Energy, nice green move. INDO is a shorter, but just like volume and not as notable. Southwest Energy, a lot of these oil plays are showing some strength. So let's see if we can maybe find something to do with oil related. Now I am going to be kicking myself because Mara, we called this out on a red to green yesterday. We were just looking through the watch list. So all I look for in a red to green is I just scroll down on my watch list and we go to the red names. So now that we're in the red names, I'm looking for names that go red to green. So as I scroll down and scroll down, now I just refreshed it. So obviously there's not going to be as many red to greens. But if I look back at this and like 4 or 5 minutes, give or take. And UCAR right through 9. Oh my gosh, look at this move in UCAR. Would have been a killer trade right there. Absolute monster move coming in on UCAR. Uh, and increased the volume if this pulled back in to like 7. Maybe there's something there. So we're going to keep UCAR on watch. And PR, Permian, another oil play that is catching a nice bid. You know, we could even just go look at XLE, which is just a strict energy oil fund. 25 of the better oil companies. We just got paid a dividend yesterday in it. We've talked about this a few times, and I was waiting yesterday actually for this 77.50 gap I mentioned on the live stream yesterday, but never came in. That's alright. We can still reject. And this is kind of a bear setup. You get two red candles back to back, and then you have an open gap. So if this were to come into this gap, uh, does it wick into this hard and reject hard? But if it gets over top of that, it's actually can be kind of a bear trap setup. But looking more at XLE, I would say you have some sort of wedge pattern that is building. So in terms of trying to build a long position in terms of a wedge pattern, I mean, it can go either way on you. You either get the breakout over top of this neckline, call it an 83 break, or you get the crack of the trend line, and then maybe we got to fall back to like some support down here in the mid 60s. So I mean, there's multiple ways that you can look at it, and obviously you'd have to work through some levels to get down the mid 60s. And in particular, I always notably go to this 72.10 gap. You know, it's probably not exactly at 72.10, but all in all, I just simply marked in as 72.10. Uh, but no, other than that, we're kind of just looking around. We can look at these top gainers, and you can see these bigger gap up plays I normally just stay away from. So if you're looking for me to trade this name, I would need to see it take out this high. And I don't like that it gapped down. Now you got to worry about who's going to be selling or who's going to be shorting off that 242 intraday gap down. And then OCA, you know, kind of the same level. I'm instantly, anytime I see it take out the bottom of like, so it gaps up and it starts wicking here. Anytime it takes out the bottom of those wicks, I instantly say to myself, hey, potential descending channel. In effect, what happens when we trade sideways and then eventually crack over top of that trend line? Well, then you also got to worry about this flat bottom break. If I go to like a 5 minute, you can see it, this is what tries to hold support, it gives it up. Now anybody who took the short break on that, you do not want, if you're short, you don't want to see them go out of the money, so they could be trim, reload the position, and then that's when you get that domino effect where it follows this downtrend consistently. But looking at some other top movers, we can look at Nikola. We were just looking at this last week at a 1 break, and I just don't, there is some nice volume that's coming into that. Uh, minute, uh, about a minute left in this candle, and we are putting a red candle in the middle of this, so maybe if this starts showing me some wicks, we can maybe take a trade on that. Some other notable moves: Mullen gaps up, takes out the body of the candle lower. AMBI, let's take a look at the daily chart on this. You're getting a fresh positive break on this name. But you are sitting right at these previous lows right here, which it rejects it. Doesn't quite get there, but I call it a rejection of the previous low, give or take, as it probably was more so respecting these lows right here. So you can see it's respecting those lows. Well, now you're over top, then you're kind of in this middle zone. Is it going to break higher? Is it going to break lower? Do we need to retest the flat top? That also comes in at a 7 flat. I mean, I don't know. But oh, here's a pretty solid look on SM Energy, and we know that oil is looking really good, and that's a nice green candle nearing a sort of a breakout level. I would like to see this kind of reject this level, come back into, if I was just marking these tops right here, come back into like a 2930 maybe. But I do think that, you got the SPY down, Dow is down, and the NASDAQ's down a whole percent. Oil is up almost 2%. I think that is where I'm going to want to see uh, some action if I'm looking to take some plays. Maybe look for some oil names. Trader Blaze, morning, brother. How we doing today? You looking at any trades? Are you in anything? Oh, I need to go refill my coffee. Yeah, I mean, we're not really taking anything. It's kind of, if you missed my intro, I kind of explained why we haven't really looked at much. I mean, looking at the NASDAQ, taking out the lows from yesterday, probably some sort of descending channel that you have in here as well. Probably some sort of descending channel. Not perfectly set by any means, but give or take something like that. I don't know. So a leg down, you do have some support. Maybe we need to fall before we can take trades on stuff. So maybe second half of the day, we're looking at some trades. DONR on the day. UCAR went nuts. I was looking at UCAR. I was setting up my stream, and this is what the candle looked like. So here's that first 15-minute candle, and from this move, if we just, here's the close from yesterday, or here's the we get the gap up, tries to fill the gap. So on this candle, we're up about 6.5%. Now that was up in my top 10. I seen UCAR was up there, and I went over to it, and it had a green candle sitting around 610, something like that, and it instantly went boom, straight down to 575, and I was like, oh yeah, that looks like a dump, and it was already showing the increased volume from the previous candle. So I started setting up my stream, right, and I was like, okay, let's get the stream out, and by the time I came back to my stream, it was a full, or by the time I came back to my charts, it was a full green candle up at 765. I was like, what the heck? I was not, it just caught me a little off guard. But yeah, UCAR is on a really solid move. I don't like the huge increase in volume. I don't mind increased volume, don't get me wrong. I love looking at increased volume. But when you're looking at the first green candle move, very light volume, only 9.8K, a bigger increase to 322K, and then a larger increase to almost a million. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but it doesn't mean that there isn't money to be made. This candle, I want to see this develop some sort of pull for a bull flag where it gives me 3 or 2 red candles into some sort of previous level that I can take advantage of. So uh, what I kind of like to preach is get the entry, hold a piece for the dream. If you don't have that entry, I'm not really trying to chase the entry, and sometimes you kind of got to build that position to find the entry. But notable from yesterday, we are still sitting in TEL. We basically just bought the very open candle yesterday. We said, hey, there's a flat top, and we were setting a close. This is where it closed on Friday. So on Tuesday, we had the order right off of that flat top, and we had some trims. Nothing too notable. It's only about a 4% move from that 34. 4 or 5%. But we have a couple alerts set in here. I don't know why there's two. We can probably remove one of them. But if that alerts us, we're going to come back and watch it and see if this is going to flush through 134. My out is going to be pretty much my entry. And then we have AGen, which we're in at 180s from yesterday. And I don't know if you remember too much about yesterday's trading day, but early in the day it was kind of the same story where the Nasdaq, the Dow, the SPY, they were all red early, and I seen this washout candle right here where it kind of washed out the lows. So anybody who was looking to take a short right at the break of that low, or anybody who was getting stopped of their long positions, they got faked out. And early in the day it showed me a move, so I was looking for stuff that was stronger on the day while the markets were red. And so I took a pullback candle around 180 or 181. We had a few trims, and we had a 190 trim this morning, which isn't the greatest move. I mean, 10 cents. But I was trying to get some 193s, which is this previous low. So here's the open candle for the day. We try the push, we get the 190 fill. We weren't able to get 193s. So we're still holding this. We're in at 180s. If it goes, we have an alert set. If it gets underneath of this 180, we're just gonna go cut it and not worry about it. So that's pretty much everything in terms of short term. Uh, I'm sitting in a lot of swing trades and a lot of good entries. I like to preach, get the entry, hold a piece for the dream. Well, there's stuff that I'm still holding from January. There's stuff that I'm still holding from, 2 years ago. So I mean, it's tough to kind of come on a live stream and just break down everything that you're looking to do. So I'm only focused on kind of talking about the trades that I've recently got in. But I like to trade off of strength. I haven't seen you in this chat before. But one of the things I like to do is trade off of strength. So looking at the NASDAQ back in January, here's your positive break, which insinuating that if you were taking a positive break, you got in somewhere around here and your entry has never gone negative on you on strength. So this middle line is your middle ground, 0. Anything under 0 is negative, obviously above is positive. You've never really had to worry about your position if you got the true entries. So this is what I like to preach: get the entry, hold a piece for the dream as long as it wants to move. If I wanted to go into more technicals on the NASDAQ, you also had around this area, you also had some sort of downtrend that you were breaking on that bull flag consolidation on that positive break. And you also have a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave structure where you hold the low, now you break that trend line. So now moving to the upside, if we're looking at this as some sort of wave pattern, there's a wave 1, there's your wave 2 retesting this neckline, here's your wave 3, here's your wave 4 that retests the top of wave 1. And now, is this move done? This is your wave 5. So what I've kind of been looking for to come in the market is some sort of ABC retracement, where I call it a retracement. Why I call it a retracement? If you run a fib tool from top of the move, bottom of the move, the 702 is deadly, and the 702 is meeting up right around this gap fill. So I was really focused on this price action in this window. But my last retracement also meets up at the previous lows, or not the previous lows, the lows before we really got bearish. So we weren't able to get up to that 786. That doesn't mean that it can't get up there. This is day 3, so day 4 I'm looking for this to hold the levels and kind of build up. But if I don't get that, so I'm just going to clear out my charts. If I don't get that, and some sort of ABC comes in. Now this could be the early start of it where this sets some sort of double top. This could be a AB and then a C wave maybe into like this previous top. But if this is looked at as a simple A retracement, I'd look for some sort of B retracement that run through the double top, give or take. If it double tops something like that into that 702, that's right around this range. If this is an AB or an AB, I'm looking for a C wave to come in and retest this flat top, which is the top of wave 4. So here's wave 3. Our wave 4, we get our wave 5 all the ways to the top end. If it goes south and we get some sort of retracement, this flat top is where I'm looking for us to find some base of support. And why I'm looking for that, I know this is probably a lot of information. I don't know if you're following me or not, but just pulling the NASDAQ up on a monthly, this is the trend line that has been holding. So does this need to be long-winded where your flat top is meeting up somewhere over here? I don't know. It's tough to say. What's your criteria for entries on swings? My swing trade criteria, now I'm gonna lose you on this probably. And how do you scan for them? I'm looking to start swinging. Okay, this is a great question, trader or Trader Blaze. Great question. How I scan for them. Now, if I was just going to a stock scanner right here, I'm going to pull up my filters. There's a couple things that you could do. Uh, One, are you looking to swing uh, for momentum is what people are always trying to swing for. So one of the things that is correlated with momentum is strength. So if I was looking for something that had some momentum, we want it to have a little volume. So we're going to put our volume on the last trading day at 1 million, our 30-day average at 1 million. So just 1 million shares traded. So that instantly puts me down to 190 tickers right there. My bad, my mic went out. So we're instantly down to 290 tickers. Now all I'm going to do is put a CCI, which is a commodity index. Now if I was trying to scan for strength, now on my indicator over here to the left, I use a CCI, but I base it off of a 50, the last 50 days of trading. So this commodity only goes off of 20. I'm going to put between, and we're going to go just around that positive break. So we're going to do -20, and we're going to do 20. And see, that instantly puts me down to 32 matches. So if I was looking at these, we'll just look at Bank of America for starts. So based off of my daily, we'll go to the daily. You can see here's your positive break. So all I'm looking for is one, where is your positive break? You get your positive break right here. You have a nice green candle, one consolidation candle. Now the consolidation candle is key to look at. Uh, does it have that wick of buying? Can you see that buying pressure? And does it have decreased volume? It does. Now this green candle takes out the highs. I want to mark that breakout spot. So more than likely it's this neckline right here. Now what is holding as support on BAC? Your neckline. You've wicked into it 1, 2, 3 times. So if I was looking at some sort of swing, you could have easily had a couple fills off of this already. Now, if you get the entry and this takes out this high, your strength is going to go into this overbought, and this is where the fun starts. Because one, this gap is already filled, and two, you have another gap for some outs, and you have some lows. So just marking the gaps, the lows, and the breakout from this current price where you're going to be interested in taking the trade for a swing. If it starts working for you, trim the tops. So you're already looking at 3%. Trim the gap. Well, that gap's filled. Here's your breakout level. You can trim a little bit in here. Your gap is a 6.5, and your previous low is 10%. If you want to keep pushing higher than that, get the entry, trim the levels, hold a piece for the dream. If it wants to keep running, this could easily run up to this gap up at 34, and in a month or two, you're looking at, okay, I got an entry around here. In a month or two, we could be sitting up 18%, and you're sitting there calling yourself a genius. Oh, look at me. I got this nice swing trade. I'm in since June, and we're sitting pretty. So that's one example. I mean, we could go through all of these tickers where if I look at PFE, here's your positive break on PFE. Is it going to be able to hold positive? It's giving up one level, taking out the lows, coming into sort of this high, and this is what's trying to hold. So from the positive break, it's this green candle. So just marking those highs, this is the level I'd want to see hold. So if that meets up with my 34 a little bit better, maybe there's a trade there. But I always base my scans off of strength. If that makes sense. Now, BAC, it's interesting that that's up there because I was buying BAC against strength because I look at this as a long. I don't really look at it as a swing trade for me because this is where you go into value, and this is where I'm probably going to lose you even more. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up and look at some financials of BAC, and there's been a lot of interesting stuff with the banks that's going on. And I don't look at news. I'm not really into. I just look at financials. I'm an accountant for a small business. I've taken all kinds of classes with financials, but one of the main things I'm going to look at is there value in this company for a long-term play? So pulled up BAC's financials. First thing I'm going to look at is revenue. pretty consistent revenue, nothing too out of the ordinary. We look at the quarterly, they're still putting up decent revenue. I want to see those shares outstanding. I want to see them buying back shares, returning value to shareholders. And you can look over the last since 2014, consistently buying back shares, decreasing the size of that pie. So as they continue buying back more and more shares, my same shares that I own, I'm owning more and more and more of the company quarter after quarter. So they're increasing my value uh, as if. Now, another main thing I want to look at, I want high margin companies. Now, obviously, banks have 100% gross margin. Their margins come back from interest, so it doesn't cost them anything. So 100% margins is fantastic. You can't beat that. But operating margins, I want quality businesses that have solid margins. So right off the start, the income statement, check, check, check. Next thing, we want to go to the balance sheet. Now, banks have very uh, high debt. So you got to keep that in consideration that more than likely you're going to want to look at a price of book. Uh, but looking at the cash flow, I always want to map out their long-term liabilities. And for some reason, the balance sheet isn't showing their long-term liabilities. It's just showing their total debt, which is an extremely large amount. But normally when you're not looking at a bank, it's easier to do this. Uh, but looking over at the cash flow statement, when I'm looking at debt, I just want to see their cash flow. So their quarterly, a big loss in free cash flow, which comes in on that first quarter, which is probably partially why those banks are sort of on that watch. But in terms of looking at an annual, this is what I want to see. I want to see that cash flow being able to cover that debt over the course of 5, maybe 10 years. So banks are a little bit tricky to look at, so maybe it's not the greatest example. But one of the last things, if they pay a dividend, I want my dividends to have some sort of dividend growth, and I want their cash flow to easily cover that payout ratio. Now, I normally don't chase yield. I normally just want to see, is it a safe dividend? So nice payout ratio, and it's got some dividend growth. So in terms of looking long term, I'm looking at this as a long term play. But maybe that's not a great example because banks, they just have very tricky financials, and I even struggle kind of trying to decipher which banks that I look at. But BAC, I am holding, and even if it went against me, which is what I want it to do, I would probably buy it against strength, and I'd be looking at this gap down at 24s and this neckline trade at 25s. So this is what I'm going to look at. If this goes against me, I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to wait for this kind of window, and this is where I'm going to kind of average into my position. So BAC I'm looking at as more of a long-term play compared to a swing. But what's an example? Let me go pull up and just look at a swing trade that I'm currently sitting in. I was logged out long enough that it just logged me out. And I'll try and find more of a swing play instead of a long play. So this is a perfect example right here, Fastenal. Now I only know Fastenal because my dad works at Fastenal. But here's your positive break. This is where I pretty much was hammering it, and I was buying it early entries as it was showing me. I looked at this earnings report, and I love the earnings report. This green candle came in, and we were buying consolidations off of this candle around 48 halves. We take out the highs, trim the levels. I was pretty bullish here because this is where we're kind of breaking this descending channel right here. You have a descending channel, and it kind of differed from that. And my reloads, all my reloads did was, as it was building support, I'd love to tell you that I bought it off of here, but as it was just holding support, I just bought back into it a little bit more, averaged up, and obviously the strength has gone negative on me a couple times. So more than likely, I would say, I believe it was somewhere in this day, we also averaged up around 52s as it was reclaiming a level, and I maybe bought it even higher than that, around 53. But if we pull over Fastenal's financials, this is going to give you a better look of why I looked at this as, I'm kind of long, but then I'm also looking at it as I'm trading the strength. So financials, consistent growth. That's what I want to see. Nothing fishy in the financials. Just nice, consistent growth. Consistently growing quarter after quarter. Checks box there. Shares outstanding. Consistently buying back shares. We look at not the most amount of share buybacks, but they're consistently buying back shares. Margins, solid margins. 20% operating, 15% profit, checks a box. So now we go over to the balance sheet. Long-term liabilities, 595 million. We go over to the cash flow statement. We can see last year they put up 778 million in free cash flow. So that checks off all their long-term liabilities in under a year. Boom, check the box there. Next, it's a dividend. So we want to go look at that dividend. Covers a decent amount of their payout ratio, but you're getting that nice dividend growth. This is what I'm looking at. See, I'm not chasing the yield. I'm chasing, is it a safe dividend? Where over time they're going to be buying back shares. That's less dividends that the company needs to pay out. That gives them room to increase dividends. So that's just some of the examples of stuff of what I'm looking for in terms of financials. And obviously there's multiple things that you can look at. I think it's important to look at share-based compensation, which Fastenal, very low share-based compensation. When you see companies that, maybe their financials aren't the greatest, you're going to see some terrible companies have very high share-based compensation. I would advise staying away from those companies, even if they go up in price. And you're like, man, why didn't I buy that? Those share-based compensations, that is where you're going to see a lot of that share dilution. And I am not a fan of share dilution. SoFi is one of those companies that I have not been a fan of, and I've been telling people, I'd stay away from SoFi. Yes, they have the revenue growth, but the share dilution is absolutely insane. Margins are good, but they're not even profitable yet. Then we go over to the cash flow statement. Look at this share-based compensation. Oh my gosh, hideous. Absolutely disgusting. Like I just don't understand some companies. So looking at this, instantly off their books over the course of 2022, 305 million for a company that's not even profitable is going strictly to these insiders for running a company that's not profitable. I don't get it. I don't get it. Free cash flow on the year, 7.3 billion dollars lost in the year of 2022 on free cash flow. So looking at SoFi, this is where, short-term trading to me is just a big voting machine. In the long run, I believe companies will trade near its intrinsic value. Now, I'm not going to make it sound like I hate this company all the most, because I took this positive break on a 490 back here and we trimmed it all the ways up and we got out of this, and I thought this looked like a short as a descending channel, and I never got back into it. Well, it gapped up above that, and there's your positive break. So if you were just trading this based off of strength, you identified a descending channel, it gaps up above that downtrend, you're getting a positive break on increased volume, you could have easily punched in and you would still be holding your position, where we have a longer term downtrend, whether that's set perfect or not. That's just kind of how I had my SoFi chart set up at the time. But a positive breakdown here, you're not worried about these pullbacks. You're still sitting 50% in the money. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in terms of swing trades. Sorry if I went a little bit off base there. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. When I start talking about financials, I'm going to start rambling, so I apologize if I went a little bit longer there. And, more, it's possible you're not even back. But those are just a couple examples of what I'm looking for in terms of swing trades. I think it's important to find high margin companies that have solid balance sheets, and if you're able to trade them at the right time, you can get a lot of share appreciation there. So now let's go back into some trading. Oh, a little long-winded there. Looking at UCAR, this is what I want to see right here. So we got 6 minutes left in this candle. You got the increased volume. Now I don't like this increased volume right there, 120 or 581K, but I do like, there's one part that I like about it. Is this wick right here. It has a little bit of wick of buying, and when I go to a 5-minute chart, you're going to see that it's wicking into the top of this, initial move. So I'd look at this. You could say this is the initial move, but it was really light volume to me. So I'm going to say this is your initial move. And why I say that is because you're able to break over some of these highs in this candle as well. And also looking over at this high, you're able to break through some highs on this candle. So if I go to a 5-minute chart right here, you're going to see, look at that flat top right there. Exactly what I was talking about. You're going to see some sort of level, and you're seeing it wick into that. So looking back at this 15-minute chart, now I'm convinced that, okay, our pull could possibly be in. Now I'm focused on the next 3 candles. 1, 2. Now you can see this candle is already leaving a wick into that level as well. Now, how does this third candle act? Do we give up that support level? Do we need to pull into the body? So we got the wick marked. Now we're going to mark the body. So we go back over to that 5-minute chart. You can see that body is also this bottom right here. So continuing to wick into those tops. Honestly, if you wanted to FOMO into it and you thought that this was going to end up taking out these highs, you could start like an entry position here. You could have tried getting like 755s, which is what it's wicking into. But if it gives up 755s, you have to be able to stomach, okay, we're going to maybe get some red engulfing to the top of this body of this candle, which maybe we trade into some levels. So these other indicators that I use a 21 EMA and a 34 EMA. And I never go underneath a 15-minute chart unless I'm trying to find levels. So that's why I went to a 5-minute chart to see, okay, do we have some sort of level here? And I've identified this as my levels. So when I take a trade, I'll use nothing less than a 15-minute chart. And I will, now for example, if we had a larger green move where maybe this whole move right here was like 6 or 7 green candles in a row. When I get multiple green candles in a row, all I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make that move into 3 candles. So if I go to a 30-minute chart, you're going to see, okay, this is just one big candle right there. Now, if it was 6 or 7 green candles in a row, that 30-minute chart is going to be 3 green candles. So then I'm telling myself, if that top is in, and I'm looking at the next 3 candles, I'm looking at a whole hour and a half of just nothing, of trying to build some levels and trying to find an entry. I'm waiting an hour and a half. But now that I have those 3 candles on a 15-minute chart, I'm telling myself, okay, 15 minutes is up. We're about to be up on 30 minutes, and now we're about to go into those 45 minutes where in the middle of that third candle is a lot of times where I take that trade. UCAR, I would look for to ramble on. Traded SoFi, I'm guessing you meant to say on Momo. Companies I trade, but recent price action was pretty good. Yeah, and I mean, looking at SoFi, I'm sure when you're looking at this volume increase on it, this is where a lot of that FOMO trading was coming in on these couple days right here. Which to me, looking at strength, to me that's a late entry, and that doesn't mean that there's not money to be made. I think the golden entry, which, obviously looking back, you can say, yeah, this was the golden entry. But I always want to know where those longs got in. And where those longs got in, these are where the big players are at. To the downside as well. You look at right here, here's a big straight shoot down. That is your negative break on strength. Flat bottom break. It's trying to hold this. It gaps up, hold, 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 hold. A little bit of a false break, but we're still positive. Now, when it goes south, boom. Negative break to the downside. There's your short. Take profit, take profit. Now, where do we wick into? That flat bottom break. This is reloads for those shorts, and you can also see you have a gap right here that got filled. So anybody looking to reload, they reload the gap, reload the previous low, take a little bit of profit. You have a false break to the upside, and also a false break on. This is why I say this is where the big players are at. So just because you get a positive break doesn't mean that, oh, yep, you're in, good to go, nothing can go wrong. No, you don't know if there's that big short that is looking to get back in on this. And now look, if you were just waiting for a positive break, you try a position here around a 650 break and you buy the top, you stop out at like you give it to the gap and then you stop out at 6 and you're like, man, I just lost 50 cents a share. And now you're trying to get back in. If you just wait for that positive break, boom, right there. There's your positive break. You try it, and you get paid pretty well. So I always think it's important to understand where your longs got in. And looking at UCAR back over 8, looking at this 15-minute candle, this is where I'd be like, it's wicked into this level a couple times. If it comes back in, uh, you also got to worry about some sort of descending channel right here. So just because it's starting to turn green doesn't mean that it's going to be all good right here, because we're only in the second candle. I think this is going to take a little bit of time, but I do like that. Now also on this pullback, I'm looking for a decreased volume. So here's my volume at the top. It decreased a little bit, still a little bit high, but now this candle, actually a green volume candle, but decreased volume. So if this just kind of trades sideways long enough, I'm looking to find an entry on UCAR, and when I get that entry, I want to see a channel break, and then eventually when it takes out this high, let's say it takes out the high in this candle right here, I want to see that volume exceed or get close to this volume, the very top volume mover. So that is what I'm focused on when I'm taking a trade. But looking around, we can look at OCN, and all I did, anytime I see it take out these bottoms, I instantly just say, hey, potential descending channel. It's going to have to break through this channel before I even remotely think about taking a trade on it. When it takes out, you gap up, it sets that low, and we can go to a 5-minute chart and I'll show you. So you gap up, you kind of set that low, your red engulfing goes through that low. You don't know who's gotten short in that right there. You don't know who's gotten short right in here. They just take profit, take profit, take profit, and now they're looking to reload those profits in at a 7 flat. Well, that 7 flat might come over here, and you're like, oh, this is getting ready to break this channel, and boom, follows the descending channel, and we're down at 590 before you know it. So that is one thing I like to be careful with. I forget what that trade was yesterday that had a different type of look. Looking at oil, oil's still over that 72. I think oil, if you're looking at a long or some sort of swing, not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor or anything, but I think if you're looking to punch long on something and you don't want to punch at the tops where the NASDAQ is at, XLE, quality fund. Now, obviously 2022 was a very good year for oil. Nobody's denying that. But these oil companies have great margins still. I've been looking at as many oil earnings as I can, but if you're looking at a fund that is quality, we'll just go to the holdings. ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil has a 50 billion share repurchase program in effect for the next 3 years. They're going to be buying back shares hand over fist. You got that big buyer. 22%. Now, normally when I'm looking at a fund, I don't want those top holdings to be that high. But then you look at Chevron, $75 billion share repurchase program. 20%, yes, I understand that. But all these oil companies, they're returning value to those shareholders. They have great margins, they're buying back shares, and they're increasing their dividends. Check, check, check. Now we look at the fund itself. We go over to the dividends. This dividend growth isn't going to sustain because 2022 was a great year for oil. You can see they just got done paying 70 cents year over year, decrease. So that dividend growth isn't going to be 14%. But that payout ratio is healthy and a 4% yield, and you get 2 of the top quality oil companies and 25 of the best United States oil companies on top of that. XLE, we go over that chart. XLE has been building. And when this gives that positive break on XLE, I'm looking for a 75 break. Now, that could be right into this downtrend right here. We have a wedge pattern going out. But if this starts building the U-shape, before you know it, 87's in effect. Before you know it, 87's acting as a breakout, and we're maybe testing all-time highs. Talk about a quality fund. Now, matching that up with oil, I said 75 on XLE. 75 is oil. I'm looking for this neckline break, 75 on oil. Getting closer to that positive break. Now, the true breakout is actually going to be over top of this flat top, where if you get over top of that, here's your channel that you're going to be trading in. Could be seeing $90 of oil before you know it, building a nice U shape in effect. If I look at that the same way I looked at the NASDAQ, you know, that 702 up here at 105, very enticing. That 786 at 110, very enticing. 46% move to that 702. Now, I was saying the same thing. Now just because I was right once doesn't mean that I'm going to be right again. Now, Blaze. Just because I was right once doesn't mean I'm going to be right again. So keep that in mind. That's a logical fallacy in its own. But I was sitting over here last year saying, hey, that 702 is still 27% away. And people were calling me crazy. And here we are. We blasted through that 702. I just want to say, just watch it. Just watch out for it. But I mean, there's so many technicals that go into just an individual setup. There's so many technicals where if this 5-wave structure was just a wave 1, this is a wave 2, you crack that trend line, is that support going to hold? You get a wave 3 that comes in, tests the bottom of wave 1, wave 5 comes into these tops over here. I mean, it's possible that this could be a short-term top. This could be an easy setup of a 5-wave structure to the downside, and we could be sitting over here in 2025, and it might be freaking 10, 20 years before we even test over top of these highs. So this is why I just don't want to preach going long anything tech related to anybody in terms of it's so tough. It just makes me worry a little bit. But UCAR, let's go take a look back at UCAR. That's enough of the financial and trading lesson. But you know, there's so much share dilution, and a big one is Tesla. You know, Tesla. I hate Tesla. I hate Tesla. You're not gonna find many people that hate Tesla as much as me. But I think Tesla, when it's all said and done, I think Tesla is gonna retrace all the way down to this trend line, and we're going to see Tesla underneath 100. And people are calling me crazy. This is just my opinion, not financial advice here. But I just don't see. I see share dilution. I see stock-based compensation. I see just a lot of just FOMO. Trading at a rich PE. Now, one thing Tesla just did, and it closed above it yesterday, but these previous lows and this gap that was filled. I think this is danger zone. I think this is danger zone. And if Tesla is the catalyst for the market, and I think Tesla could be down here at this long-term trend line over the course of a long period of time, 2024, 2025, you know, I think that is potentially a catalyst to say, hey, the NASDAQ could also be down in the dumps with it. They're going to give up market share eventually. You know, I don't try to get caught up in trying to assume. Now, I'm not saying that's what you're doing is assuming, but I don't want to get caught up in trying to guess. If I go look up Tesla's financials, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see them share dilution. Now, obviously, a ton of growth. No question, no denying that. But over since 2014, just look at this share dilution. Quarter after quarter share dilution. Now, car companies don't have great margins. Tesla, I will give them credit where it's due. Tesla has good, very good margins for a car company. Not denying that. Not denying that at all. But where you are saying they're going to give up market share, you know, I'm not trying to make assumptions on that. I like to go look at the numbers. I think they're already giving up market share in a sense. Now, stick with me on this. We go over to the quarterly and we look at this gross margin. Decrease, 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 decrease. Decreasing margins. It's clear as day. And if those margins keep decreasing, which we know that they've been lowering the price of their cars. They've raised them a couple times in the last couple months, but I just don't see them being able to sustain these margins. These margins for a car company are really good. If we're looking 5 years in advance and they're only putting up 8% or 10% margins, which is about average for a car company, and these profit margins are sitting around 4 or 5%, this company is not worth this. It is not worth this. Oh boy. And then you go look at the share-based compensation. So you got nice dilution, and look at this share-based compensation. These insiders are just reaping the benefits. Reaping the benefits. I just don't see it. I can't get on board with it. Can you decipher Tesla going from where it was to where it is now? I just don't think that you can. My bad. I need to get back to trading. I get off track. You get me start talking about financials, I'm gonna ramble on. I'm gonna ramble on. There's not gonna be any stopping it. So now we're in this third candle of UCAR. We continue to wick into that 750, and the more I keep looking at this, the more I think this is probably going to try to take out the highs. And now just like that, this candle is reclaiming 8. Is this set perfectly or not? I really just want to see it come down into like this 725. I don't know if I'm going to get it or not. Let's clear this chart out. Let's mark the bodies. We know it's been wicking into this level. We know that we want it to come down to here, the body of this candle. Let's see if we can find anything else. Let's see if we can find anything else. I don't know, Trader Blaze, you got anything else that you're watching other than UCAR? I think this UCAR setup is looking pretty enticing. Aside from that, I think the Nasdaq's gonna go down like that, I've been dipping into this Nasdaq short, and I think that it's a reasonable setup. You got a potential ascending channel. Looking at the strength, I just think it's not there yet. So I'm gonna be patient on this Nasdaq short before I really hammer it. And obviously it's gonna have to fight through these lows. I look at this as a flat bottom break, red engulfing through it, meets up with the Nasdaq as well. So I'm looking for this to trade sideways and give me some sort of breakout area. Laugh out loud. Yeah, you get me when you hear me start rambling and start pulling up financials, you better just buckle in, because there's not going to be any stopping me until I see something. I'm going to go refill my coffee. When I come back, I'm going to look at that UCAR trade. Alrighty, we're back. Oh, UCAR under 750. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, this will. Oh man, I missed my entry going to refill coffee. I would have tried it right there. Man, I would have tried it. That's alright. I think we got 2 minutes 50 seconds left in this candle. I think that we are going to get ready to maybe try a trade on this. Let's get this channel in there. Something like that. Let's go over to the 5-minute, make sure we're setting this properly. I would say something like that. Nice tight channel. You can see it wicking into that, which is the bodies of this candle holding still. And the bottom of this is what we're kind of wicking down to right here. I think this looks pretty darn good. Not guaranteed if you're following me on this, but we are going to try and look for some sort of entry on this. If this wants to start building some sort of U shape right here, then we are going to try and be on for it. Now let's just get a starter position built on this. Nothing crazy, but we are going to try it. I don't like that it's putting that red engulfing below those wicks. So still a little bit of time. Now let's see how close we can get this to 25s. Up at 40s. Let's get as close to those 30s as we can get. Now let's just get our starter position built on this. Alright, we're going to get that starter position right here. It's taking a little bit too long. Okay, so we're in on just very small size. Nothing crazy. If this wants to start working for us, we're going to be all for it. So let's see where that fill came in at. We got 39s. 39 on the fill. And let's see if we can get some more shares at a lower price, as close to 7. So my 21's at 703. Let's see how close we can get to 7s here. And I'm just going to go put another small order off 730. If that fills, we're going to trigger in on it. And why I like it is because we also have a nice decreasing volume on this red candle after this green candle. I don't like that this red engulfing is going through here, but I'm not really finding anything else. I'm just going to try and give you a little entertainment blaze. So yeah, we're going to try that. And then I think maybe the SQ. So this is what I was talking about with those green candle moves. Anytime I see extended green candle moves like that, we're going to switch to a 30-minute chart. So when this comes back in around like a 1990, we are maybe going to try that. So looking back over at UCAR, catching a little bit of a bid, nothing crazy. And we want to see this come down just a little bit more. So here we have the open of the next candle. Now 716 is my level. So 725s. If we can wick through 730s and get that fill, that is what we're going to be looking for here. MSOS. Cannabis ETF. Nice consolidation pattern. This one might have something to it as well. We look over at the daily. We've got a nice positive break. Nice U-shaped building. This MSOS could be something worthy of trying as well. And UCAR catching a little bit of a bid temporarily, but I'm going to expect this 760 to be resistance. If we get some sort of green candle in through the middle of this, we are going to look to potentially start trimming and try the reload. So like I said, just very minimal size right here. If this were to go like red engulfing through all this, it's really not gonna kill me. But here we're getting close to that 730. We have a small order off of 730. Let's see if we can add a little bit more size to it. And that 730 should have filled right there. Let's see if that 730 gave us a fill. No, we did not get a fill off of that 730. Let's see if we can get that fill this time. There, we got a fill. Let's market order into a few more. And see if we can get some movement on this trade. So let's see where that fill came in at. So we got the 730 and we got a 720. 720. So we got 3 fills on the name, and we're just kind of building into this position. Now if this were to go up to that 760, we're going to respect it. Nice wick of buying coming in at those 25s. Nice wick of buying there. That is what we wanted to see. We want to see those buyers there. Now hold 25s. Hold 25s. Let's see if we get some share appreciation. Like I said, if we get up into these, 750, 760s, I'm going to want to try and trim these previous wicks right here. And then if it continues trading sideways, we're going to try and reload off of 25s is what we're going for. This MSOS looks pretty decent. If this comes back down into like 750s, let's put an alert right here. And if that alerts us, then we're going to know, hey, we can maybe trade this level right here. Still holding this first level. Still holding 25s here. Right around this area. Still got some time. So this is the fourth candle. Being a red candle, I still want to see just nice low volume. Since it is this red candle, I don't want to see people panicking on their positions just yet. Still wicking into those, so still got a few buyers there. Let's scroll through the watch list and see if we can see some differences. Kawa taking out the highs. Could be something there. What else we got? Zumz. Nice strong move. BTI. That's a nice move. IMPP. Here is an oil play. Nice flat top. Look back at UCAR. Now sitting at 730, so we know we got those few buyers there. Someone's trying to hold it up temporarily. 734, 737s. This is what we kind of wanted to see right here. So we got 39s, we got 30s, and we got 20s. Bid stacked at 28s, took those out. Now we're back at 25s. Still not the most size on this, as we do understand that this is a descending channel and we're looking to respect 50s. Probably now that we got 3 fills, we are going to start trimming this if it comes up to 50s. Pretty much when the trade is green on all the shares that we got. So our first order we got is 39s. So as soon as we are starting to get in the profitability for all the shares that we have bought, we're going to start trimming, and then that'll give us a little comfort to get some more size, the size that we want on the position. Now we're up at 40s. Size is stacking at the 30s now, so we got 23 lots at 32s. So that's what I want to see, that bid stacking higher and higher and higher. And now the candle is turned green, so we are going to get ready to just start taking some small pieces off if we get up near those 50s. Here we're back at 40s. We're not going to let that panic us. We're still holding some levels. Nothing really worth panicking just yet. Keep scrolling. Let's see if we can find some red to greens. A nice red to green there. Ooh, Key. We had this one on watch yesterday. We're gonna have to go take a look at Key. But I wanna make sure that this U car is gonna be working for us. I want to make sure that U car is working for us. So at 57, that 57 meeting up with these wick lows was what it needed to hold, breaks it, retest it. Wicked into it originally, tried to hold. So if it can get back over top of 57s, I'm going to feel pretty good about this name, but we're going to respect 57s for sure. That's a pretty key price. Mullen is freaking ripping right now. Held the wick low, you know, it went through the bodies, took out the highs of that candle. So this could be some sort of ascending channel being built here on Mullen. Just maybe. Keep our eyes on this U-car trade. Still showing me that wick. That's kind of what I want to see in light volume. So a lot of the longs, in my opinion, of course, right here, a lot of the longs are just kind of scared to take that position right here with it taking out these wick lows. And that's all right. I don't blame them for that. Uh, Sometimes taking that entry is not the right play. Sometimes taking the entry right here, sometimes it's better to wait and buy it at a higher price. So when that volume, when I'm looking for that volume to increase is when we either get back over top of these wick, see these wick lows, or when we break this channel, that is when I'm looking for this to get that volume increase. So I'm not expecting a ton of volume right there. I just want to see the buyers holding the price up. 3 minutes left on this candle, really light volume. So this is what I like to see. And, you know, I know that may sound crazy, but down here, you want to make sure that there's not somebody that's really tanking this price down. And the big part is we're still holding this 25 level. Just working out the kinks right now. Uh, in terms of so you're looking for low volume on pull-ins. Are you bidding in on the pullbacks? I just market ordered in for some small size. Uh, my 39 was my first order, and I just put an order off 30s. And as it was pulling into my EMA, I just wanted the market order in. So I market ordered twice and limit order once. And why I liked it when it wicked underneath of this is because this was the body of this candle. So this is kind of the price I want to see hold. I'm not worried that it's still low volume because we're in this channel. It doesn't really look the greatest yet. That doesn't mean that it can't catch a bid. But this is why I'm also looking to respect if this wants to just trade sideways for a little bit and 725 is the level that wants to hold. This is why I want to trim up into like 750, 760. That way I feel a lot better reloading the position right there. So now my level's at 722. If this gives up, I mean, it's still small size, and maybe it needs to just stay inside of this channel for a while. But if it just trades sideways long enough, this is where that volume is going to start coming in. So decreasing volume all the ways through. I'm okay with that. And here we're starting to, now we're getting ready to trim a little piece of the position. If I can see 50s on the tape, then we're going to start trimming and respecting those lows. So I see 40s on the bid, 41s on the bid, 42s on the bid. Come on, give me that push up to 50s where we can get our first trim and start ringing the register. 46 is on the ass, 47's on the ass, 49's, and there's 50s. And there's our first trim. Boom! Ring the register right there. How you like that, Blaze? Already ringing the register. Got the first trim. Now if we pull back in the 730s, I feel beautiful reloading this position. If it wants to keep going, we got the entry. Let's see it blast through this 750s and let's keep ringing the register. That is how you do it right there. Get the entry, trim the levels, reload if you can, hold a piece for the dream. So let's see if we can keep running up on UCAR right here. Let's see 750s hold. If it doesn't, that's fine. Let's pull back in and let's reload the position. 750s holding temporarily right at the downtrend, wicking into those previous lows. That is just fine. Let's see where that fill came in at. We got 51s on the tape, 751 fill. 50s trying to hold right now. Let's see if we can get a burst through this. Hey, I mean, adding over 750, this is what I was talking about, where maybe it might be worth buying at a higher price. Now, I mean, trade your own book here. Trade your own book. But waiting for it to get over top of these wick lows. You can see it's wicking into that right now. So these are where the longs are. These are where the shorts are, in my opinion. The closer down here. Now, if it just trades sideways long enough, when it breaks this downtrend, I think that's when you're going to see this volume increase. And more particularly, probably when it gets over top of this 760. So running the tape and also looking over to the right, I can see the SQ catching some resistance. Let's mark this previous high. You know, if you were looking at something that was strong on the day, I'd say this NASDAQ short trade. A lot of good volume came in. Here's your second and third candle. Does this need to be a longer extended sort of downtrend? Maybe. But this NASDAQ short, if you're looking for some strength, I would say this cannabis ETF doesn't look half bad. The NASDAQ short doesn't look half bad around a 20 flat. And I'm still sitting with this UCAR. Let's see if we can get a burst in price on this UCAR. Yeah, if we pull back into like 730s, I'm going to try it. Even though I don't like that it's wicking into those previous lows right there, but we are going to try it. If this breaks this channel, I think you're going to see this price try to reclaim 8. So over 760, I'm going to be saying 8. The top of these candles right here. I could say the bodies of the candles, so we can go like 775 to 780 for our next trim, and then 8, and then go with the top of the wicks and the bodies. So this is how I'm going to be playing this all the ways through. If it gives us a move through this, we're going to respect all those levels to the upside. So that's kind of how I mark my outs. I mark the bodies, I mark the wicks, I mark the bodies, and I mark the wicks. So if we get a price up at 880, that's over $1.50 a share. I'm not going to be complaining on going over $1.50 a share on a $7 entry, 730 entry. Let's see if we can find anything else. So some of these oil plays, I mean, look over at XLE. I'd say XLE, the cannabis ETF. Look at that, nice sideways action. Now starting to flirt with the highs right there. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Except for, and you're getting a fresh positive break right there. So big players right here. Does somebody need to come back into 79 flat? And also meeting in sort of near these lows as well. Right there, that's what we're wicking into. So if it can hold above that price, I think it's an easy trade up to like 80 gap if you're lucky. You know, you can respect the previous lows, of course, so call this a trim window. From current price, you know, it doesn't sound like much, but if you get the right amount of size, that's a pretty decent trade. Looking at Fastenal, running high, running high, running high. Running high, running high, running high. UCAR trying to hold 7. Still wicking into that level, which is fine. We still need to see it break this channel. So not out of the weeds yet. Got one print on the name. And SQ down here at this 20 flat level. I do think that this could be something here. Could be something there. Just maybe. Wicking into 20s temporarily. And these tobacco names, keep these on watch too. Alteria, BTI, Philip Morris, all of them. Keep them all on watch. I think value-wise, pretty decent support that you're trading at. Strength is not there, but you have a longer-term trend line that it's building the frowny face into, so could be a flat bottom break. Could see price mid-30s. I'm more heavy on BTI. I like BTI. Got some good supports in these low 30s. I think you're getting fair value as well. So UCAR coming back in. We're waiting for a reload here on UCAR. And we are going to respect it if it comes back in. Wicking into those previous lows, it is a little bit scary, but we are going to try it. MSOS. Buyers there holding this level. If this alerts us, we may be thinking at adding at like a 570, 575. But nice looking little chart right there. If you ask me, I think you have sort of a trend line. Your breakout price is around trying to build some sort of flat top right here, somewhere in there. It's an interesting looking chart. I'm not really sure how to mark that out. But UCAR still trying. So we got 6 minutes left on this, and I do want to see this. Now that this is a green candle, I would like to see this get at least over top of the volume from this one. But I want to see it break this channel. And by no means do we have very much size on this, but you know, this is kind of an example of what I'm kind of looking for. I want to see that increased volume, decreased volume on the pullback, and then when we break higher, I want to see that volume really start picking up. So not quite in that area yet, and I not a fan of how it wicked into those previous lows right there. But, I mean, there's positives and negatives to any trade that you're looking to take. MRO, beautiful, beautiful hold of this trend line on MRO. This is one of those oil plays that I am a fan of. They very small dividend. It's about a little under 2% dividend, but they focus more on those buybacks. And nice wedge pattern forming here. You could easily take an entry and give it below this trend line if you wanted to. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this name print up at 28. 28 gap is what we're looking to run that to. UCAR still holding this sort of range right here. And still not even enough information on this chart for me to say, hey, this is a dandy of a trade. And here, oh, we just barely pulled back in those 740s, or 730s, just briefly. That would have been the reload. I looked away just temporarily. If I could have reloaded in those 30s, I would have been all right with it. But 750s and breaking through 766. Let's maybe think about taking a piece off right here. Let's see if we can get back up into those 60s. Come on, just a little bit more push. A little bit more push. Come on, 750s, hold. And let's think about taking a piece off the next time we get into those 60s, as this trend line could be more so set a little bit higher, and we just want to make sure that we respect into those bodies of those candles. And there are 67s. Let's come on, can we get 70s? Maybe a little bit touch of greed right here, and let's take a piece off. Let's see where that second trim came in at. And we got 65, 765s, ring the register again. 2 profit takes, coming back in the 50s. If this comes back into 30s whatsoever, we're going to try and reload this, leaving a wick into those previous lows, but that is alright. We want to see this price hold, of course, for the share appreciation, but we got 2 profit takes on the name, and we are going to keep ringing the register if it gives us the opportunity. So here's 746, 734s. Let's try and reload this name and get back in on some shares. Oh, come on, come back into those 750s holding again. I just barely missed that reload. It was in under 740s, just briefly was underneath those 740s where we were trying to get a reload on the name. Still wicking into those lows. Probably if 725s gives up, I'm probably just going to give it up as, you know, follow the channel. You know, maybe it gives a break over here where I can get back in. ABEV is a pretty good example of a swing trade, as I am just going to hold this puppy as high as it wants to go. We're at 760s, or 260s. Playing with this positive break over here. Perfect example of a swing trade. No need to sell, even though it got negative briefly. Never went out of the money. And ABEV, pretty solid company if you ask me. A lot of those Brazilian companies, I've actually done very well trading them. Let's go back to that UCAR. 750's trying to hold here on UCAR. Wicking into that previous low is the only thing that is really scaring me. But 750's holding for right now. Damn, PBR. Man, this was my biggest regret of the year, is not loading up more on PBR. We're in at like a 10-11 average. Man, we're buying it against the strength, buying it off the trend line. Received 2 dividends on the plays. The dividends has already paid me off freaking $2. Man, PBR has been on a tear. NASDAQ short now holding these 20s. This is very early entry, but wicking into that level briefly. 1995s. I mean, if you were averaging in off of this wick high right here, you are looking at the right stuff. So trying to hold these 20s briefly. And UCAR still holding 750s, wicking into those previous lows. That is the scariest part of this trade, is how it's wicking into these previous lows. Normally on this third candle, you like seeing that green candle build up and break the channel, but this one it didn't do so very fast, which is why we wanted to respect 750s, and anything up into those 60s we knew we wanted to respect. You know, we could try and reload right here, but that candle is just a little bit scary. So anything in these 30s, anything in the middle of this green candle, we're going to try and reload, and hopefully we can get some sort of channel break. That is what we're going to be looking for. Okay, here's 45s. If this can just hold sideways, my out, unfortunately, is probably going to be underneath of this wick. I don't know if I can trust 7s to hold and then give a breakout. But we're trying. If we reclaim 50s here, you know, particularly over 55s, I think this is going to look pretty good. But if this candle comes into like mid 30s, I think we're just going to try it and then put our stop in. And if we get stopped out, we get stopped out. Nothing you can do. And there's 55s, can the stack over 50s, and here we're starting to show early signs of this channel. So we don't have a reload. We've respected 54s, that was it? And we've respected 65s. Let's see if we can get up to these 80s and respect the bodies of these candles right here. So there's 62s. Starting to show that break of this channel temporarily. Let's go take a look back over at the... Sitting high in that channel gives me anxiety. Yes, it does, which is why I like to oh yeah, you had some nice nice third. Took a third out at 64 is very nice. That's nice from a took 25 cents. Hey, you can't complain with that. And I don't blame you for getting out, as it's I really don't blame you for exiting out in this, because it's wicking into these lows and it hasn't broken out of this channel yet. The only thing that I would say is you know, I like to run deeper stops, which obviously if the stops execute, you lose more money, right? So I don't blame you for exiting the trade, because this is not the greatest setup yet. But I am going to probably respect mine down to like a 715. I don't want it, even if it wicked me out at 715 and it reclaimed real quick, okay, it happens. Sometimes trading is very difficult, especially when you're trying to get the lows. But I still like this setup, and it's continuing to wick into these lows right here. And 750s is trying to hold. Is it going to be able to hold? And there's 63s. Can we get a channel break here? There's 68s. I've seen 70s on the ass temporarily. They're trying to keep it inside of this channel. Are they going to be able to? And I got somebody getting home right now, so I may be ending the live stream, but I think I am going to stick true to this 715 stop, and I might even just set it at 710 if it wicks lower. But if this can break this channel and get over top of these bodies, I think that is looking pretty good. I would say the strength on the day if you were looking at trying something, you know, I think this oil, people are going to regret not trying this oil. In my opinion, on this daily chart, getting close to that positive break and looking at oil, I've been calling that this 75 is going to be that break. If it gets over 75, watch out, because after 75, you are going to, I shouldn't say you're going to, you could be seeing low 80s before you know it. And if it gets over 83s, the next thing that you have is low 90s. You could say that you have these lows over here, which is mid 80s, but I think strength takes its course. This has been trading sideways for a long time. Anybody who's been trying to get short off of this, which you look at these wick lows are the wick highs right here. Anybody short off of that, when they start losing money at 75, that is going to be something that you're going to want to watch out for. So before I go, let's see if we got any red to greens. NASDAQ short still holding 20s. Cannabis is still looking pretty good, fresh off of a positive break where it wicked a couple times. And this is a nicer setup compared to this UCAR, in my opinion. You still could have some sort of downtrend that is being built right there. But if this trades sideways long enough and breaks it, this breakout price doesn't look half bad. But looking more so at XLE, if it comes back into like 79s, I think that could present something as well. So looking over at this UCAR, still a little bit wicky into these previous lows. So if this just trades sideways, now this could be starting to curl over as well. So I'm not really going to be looking to reload. You know, I may even average up if it gets up to 75s. I don't know if I want to do that. But I don't like these wicks into this channel. The more it just sits right here, the more it's going to need to give me some sort of breakout soon. I don't like that it's wicking into these previous lows very much. If it was going to break out, you know, one thing you got to ask yourself is why didn't it break out right there when we just seen 70s? So somebody is holding this price down. But that doesn't mean that this might not be a 7 hold, which if we look at the green move, you know, at 618 meeting in right around there. So call that maybe an area, but you know, if it gives out these lows, anybody long here, how many people are going to be still giving this a chance? But yeah, that's what we're watching for today. I don't really have anything else for you guys. It's just this lone trade, and honestly, the more it keeps wicking into these 760s, the more it's looking like it's actually not going to work out for me. But we're still sitting on the green on it. Is it going to pan out? I don't know. But I think that is going to call it for the live stream as of right now. And I could be back at around 1 o'clock. So if you're still around, Blaze, I appreciate you tuning in. And sorry if you asked some questions and I didn't get to you on some questions. But, you know, you called out UCAR at the beginning of the trade. We tried taking a trade on UCAR, and we were able to take a little bit of profits, and I think you were able to take a little bit of profits as well. So, profits is always good, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in, man.